haven't graduated.
Can I eat a pork butt? I should be like the casual guy. I'd be like,
Alright. Hi, I'm Dan Sobira.
I'm Douglas Peterson.
I'm Michael Hankis, and we're
Island Life Tiny Homes.
Well, it all started, I think in summer of 2016, or leading up to that summer, Doug was talking with his grandma. His grandma pitched him the idea of, hey, why don't you guys build a tiny home? And we're like, okay, why not? And a couple of years later, we built it, and yes.
I mean, the reason why we chose the name Island Life Tiny Homes was, of course, our first home was built on Vancouver Island, but we also wanted to convey a certain lifestyle with the types of dwellings that we're building. So we wanted to create tiny homes that enable you to live a lifestyle that was kind of fairly laid back, relaxed, and connected with nature. And so I feel like the name Island Life kind of conveys that way of living.
More nomadic and more like minimalistically focused too.
In school, you know, where you finish like one project, your preliminary design would be pretty much like what you present for your finals, right? So we got to that stage within that like 1.5 weeks. And then to do the detailed development, like what you would normally do like later on in your school, like academic career, that's what we ended up doing through like the whole project, because it's not just one detail that we're showcasing, it's like every single connection, every joint, all the waterproofing, like the barriers, like thinking about the mechanical systems, which we didn't know exactly how to do because it was so much to learn. We're not using like normal appliances, right? We're not using like normal systems that you'd see in a house. We're trying to figure out how to incorporate like these RV appliances and like marine units into this one little design. And even with like the fridge, right? Our fridge was like also propane and electric. So at the beginning we thought like, okay, we'll design it, and we didn't account for the vents that have to vent out the fridge and have like the intake. So that was actually something that we were designing up until probably 2 months ago, or like 2 months before the end of the build.
There are areas in Canada and the US where you can live in a tiny home full time, but those are far and few in between. So with us, or in a lot of other tiny home dwellers, the movement is fairly anonymous. A lot of people that live in their tiny homes full time, they live illegally because they don't want to be, evicted off their property or kicked out by a nosy neighbor. So currently at the moment we're kind of advocating for a building code for these things and the right zoning. It allows you to be fairly nomadic in your lifestyle. You save money, you can travel, you don't have to worry about taking care of a house.
Or a mortgage, right?
Or a mortgage.
Yeah, that's probably the main selling point.
It gives you a lot of freedom in your life, but it also, due to the size constraints, it forces you to get out more often. Go for a bike ride, hike, if you're an outdoorsy person.
Even if you have your traditional suburban home, how much time do you really spend in it? I mean, you're working full time, you come home in the evening. Most people, if they don't want to be home, you take a vacation, you're not in the home, so it doesn't really matter how big your house is. The tiny home kind of, liberates you in that sense. You still have a place for your head.
I would say it's a good solution for housing. I would say it's not a solution that everyone wants, and that's fine. What we're trying to do here is just add diversity to the housing options that are out there. Some people might live in boats, some people might live in yurts, condos, townhomes. We just want to add more diversity to the housing market so people have options out there. I also think that tiny homes are a great way to gently densify, say, suburban neighborhoods where people might be more opposed to condo developments. And it's a great way to put housing on a piece of property without having to kind of destroy the environment around it, like digging out these giant holes for foundations, or having to demolish a house every time you want to replace it with something else.
Or even just putting a slab on foundation where you have to take off a few inches of soil and then put gravel down and cement, like all these things like destroy it.
I think we alter the land like so much, and we're just constantly changing it to like accommodate our needs. So tiny homes, they have a little bit of a lighter footprint on the landscape, and they can be wherever you need them to be.
And even if they're not here to stay, I think kind of the lessons that we can all learn from them in terms of like downsizing, more of a minimalistic focus. I think it brings that dialogue to attention. I think that's a direction we should all be heading into, because overpopulation is one thing, but also kind of, you know, if we all just kind of condense ourselves and lifestyle too, that's a good thing.
It was worth it, definitely. I think the amount of experience we gained from this one little tiny house probably blows away all the education we got at school. Like, of course, we learned a lot from school, but once you get into the nit and grit and the details and actually building where you're drawing, it's something that takes way longer and involves a lot more thought, a lot more research, a lot more capability and skill as well.
Right. I think if we were to build another one, we would have been able to reduce the price significantly.
100%.
So it was, it was expensive, but it was a good learning experience.